Yeah, I have a Workbench.
You got a Workbench?
It's not super technical.
I am amazed, people.
I'm trying to, do my job.
Well, all I did was work on Frosty.
Well, from what you did on Frosty is probably way more than I did. I just want to talk about USB drives real quick. I know that we've kind of talked about them in the past here and there on here, but I wanted to do just a quick Workbench because then Eddie can cut the section out and you can actually watch this. And
that's a good idea.
USB drives, first thing to keep in mind, USB drives for your embroidery machine. Keep in mind, whenever you take it out of the computer, you need to eject it.
Safely.
Safely eject. There's that little thing that says safely eject.
Not yank it.
Yeah, if you just pull it out sometimes, it doesn't close the drive out and it may not show up on your computer. So that's the first big thing, is you always want to make sure when you take your USB drive from the computer, actually do the clickety-click thing to safely eject it so it closes the drive out so you won't have any issues on your machine. The other thing I just wanted to mention about USB drives is on older machines, bigger drives are going to take forever to open.
Or not read at all.
Or not read at all, because the way that they read, some of the older machines read drives is they actually read everything on there to index it, rather than just look for information. They want to read the whole thing. So if you have like a 12 gig drive, it wants to look at all 12 gigs of data before it displays anything.
Oh, gee, that's interesting, John. Thank you. I hope so.
So a lot of times, so if you buy your USBs here at the shop, I actually special order them. I try to get 1 gig drive, and but I'm finding lately I've got to go up to 2 gigs because 1 gigs are harder to find. The smaller sizes tend to work better on older machines. They'll open up quicker and they'll be a little bit more responsive. Newer machines, it's not going to make that much of a difference. But once you do get up like to the 64 gigs and like the 128 gigs, you may find that those might be a little too large for the machine. And what's interesting is the amount of information in a embroidery file is really minuscule. It's not like a music file or a movie file. So you can get a ton of files on a 1 or 2 gig drive. It's not like you're going to run out of space. I don't know anybody that's run out of space on a drive.
But with that being said, I don't encourage people to use their sticks to store.
Yes. That is a very good point. Storage, USB does have a failure rate. You want to make sure that your stuff is stored ideally in some sort of cloud-based storage, so if you do have a failure, you can always retrieve it. But at least on your computer, because it's a much safer place to store your drive. I mean, they usually come on like a CD or whatnot, but if you are making archived copies, don't leave them on USB drives. USB drives are not a reliable form of storage.
Yeah, we've had them go bad during classes, and it's not cool.
Yeah.
And I would highly recommend, when we did a little computer class that we did, that you store it. You think you're storing it on your computer under documents that is then kicking back to the cloud automatically.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Then you've got it here, you've got it there, and the stick, like I'll use the same stick until it dies.
Yeah.
Moving files back and forth. Or when my Lumiere is happy, I'll just wirelessly send it. But
I still like to use the drive. It just seems easier.
No.
But anyway, I just wanted
to
cover just those basics on USB drives, because they're really that is the foreseeable future of file transfer if you're not doing it wirelessly. And it is a good technology. It gets the job done. It's inexpensive. But there are, like I said, a few quirks that I just wanted to cover.
They die.
Yeah, they die. And like I said, the other thing is size-wise, get the smallest one you can find for your embroidery. It'll just be a little bit more responsive. And
you don't need to have big.
Oh yeah, you don't need
sticks.
128 gigs of storage for embroidery files.
Yeah. Not to pick on anybody, but we have a couple people in house that have Tupperware containers full of sticks, because that's how they were storing all those designs. And I'm like, please.
Yeah.
Well, they've got them all neatly labeled, but they've got bundles of them, and I'm trying to get them to move them off to their documents, which then gets backed up to the cloud, so that, so we're working on that, but that's not a safe thing.
Okay. And then Gina asked a really good question. What about flash drive brands? That is interesting because a name brand flash drives are better than unbranded, cheap Amazon drives. That being said, you're usually going to pay for it. And the other thing you're going to find too is like your, was it Lexmark, Kingston, any of the name brand drives are usually really good. But the problem you're going to find is the reason they get bigger is because they're trying to hit a certain price point. Like they want drives to cost $20. So as
I want them to cost $5.
yeah, but well, I'm just saying that they want them to cost. They have a cost. They want them to cost $20. So the problem you have with name brand drives is as gigs get cheaper,
Yeah.
the drives get bigger for the same amount of money. So if you are looking for a name brand drive in like a 1 or 2 gig, it's going to be near impossible to find.
Yeah,
because
they are hard to find.
They're not
They
making
are.
them anymore. They're name brand and they're
and people aren't just thinking about sewing, but you know, I believe on the Luminaire Brother website, they talk about what name
Yes.
brands they're compatible with.
yes, there is a spreadsheet.
There is. So Brother has gone out and said, look, these are
We know that these work.
the name
Yeah.
brands that you should be buying. And
Yep.
I, of course, did not print that out because we didn't.
Yeah,
we were
and
talking about
it's a
this,
huge list, but
I
yeah.
do know there's a list.
And then Gene does ask format. Yes, formatting is a very good practice. If you when you first get the drive, just format it. It's not a bad idea. Especially some of the cheaper drives, or even some of the expensive drives. They may have files on there. Some of them will have like advertising, like a little JPEG of, oh, this is our brand. Some drives will have some sort of security features and some weirdness on there. So it's always a good idea to just format it before your first use. It really, I prefer it because it cleans it up. Some people like
on
the
a Mac, you don't do that. It's a formatted on a PC, but on Mac, I don't have
Does it format it automatically?
to. I have no idea. It just does.
See, that's the
It
problem.
does. It just works.
Yeah, I know. I've always the best analogy I ever heard is having a Mac is like having a Corvette with the hood bolted shut. It's going to perform awesome. It's going to look great, and it's going to be fantastic, but you can't do anything in the engine.
I don't want to do anything.
I
in
know.
the
I'm just
engine.
saying that's what makes Macs nice. Whereas if you're somebody that likes to tinker and
I don't
hot
want
rod,
it.
you're not
I
going
just
to want
want
a
to
Mac.
know it's going to work.